Hello world. Now, I often say there's nothing Denver ain't seen before, but they ain't never seen this. You can only get this. Right now, should be back in black. I mean right now. Okay, there we go. See where I'm at? Technically, I'm right beside the homeless shelter I got in. Yay, permanent bed. But I'm also right beside this Caterpillar office building. And my great granny Alice would know exactly what them things are. The real ones, obviously. But she'd also know Caterpillar makes tractors. Because my great Uncle William, pretty sure it was him, fell off one and died. It's real sad. But she knows what Caterpillar does. So we're going to talk about a story that's everlasting, but particularly the parts from 1934, 1935, 1987, and lo and behold, 36 years later, 2023. You ready? I'm going to try to do this in one take, but if I can't, Lord help me. All right, so with these cars. All right, so it's gonna be loud. Sorry, I can't help it with these trucks come by. But we gotta do it right here by Caterpillar because great granny Alice, she knows Caterpillar. All right, so lo and behold, a long time ago, it was well, we gotta start back in 1935 because that's when my granny was great. Granny was born on May 5th, 1935. So you know what that means? Well, if you don't, because you don't. There's no way. Hold on, we're going to pause this. Okay, so Granny was born on May 5th, 1935. But do you know on August 5th, 1934, it had to be cold. It was either freezing cold for some reason on August 5th, or they had just got back from that Blue Ridge Parkway. It was brand new, and love was in the air. But it probably wasn't. The Great Depression was just over. Probably wasn't love in the air. What I know about complete recoveries is usually right after that, it gets cold. So, probably what happened, it was great granny Alice, who was hotter than Britney Spears at the time. She was. That's where I get my hotness from, great granny Alice. She probably was freezing to death, and she probably said, oh, we go. And one thing that you need to know about great granny Alice is she was crazy. That's what everybody tells me. She was nuts. She wasn't too nuts to me. But here's the thing, she was probably cold on August the 5th, and she probably said, well, I gotta tell you, one of the reasons she knew she was crazy, her husband had to go defeat them Germans. Now, I like to think that my great-grandfather, Harvey, was probably so enthralled with the ideals of this country and so upset at what the Germans did, he was just like, I gotta go. I gotta go right now. And one of my great-grannies was probably like, well, who's gonna finish building the barn? And he was like, the wood's on layaway. We'll just deal with it when I get back. And she was like, you better get back. And he did. Praise the Lord. Technically, she wasn't married to him at the time. Technically, there was another woman that I think died giving birth to one of my great aunts, one of my granny's sisters. But then great granny Alice come along, and you know she had to worry about that World War, and she was around for a part of it. I know I couldn't do this video in just one take, but see a sign that says emergency exit, alarm will sound, and I like to believe, because this is true, because he came back, oh hero. My great-grandfather, Harvey Hawks, he beat the snot out of them Germans. He just beat them, the snot out of them. There was a shortage of the tar and snot in Germany after he got done with them. There just was nothing left. No snot, no tar at all. There were no emergency exit, y'all. There was just the alarm. Like Beyonce, ring the alarm, but that song, Harvey's here. We gotta go. She had to fight through and survive that Great Depression. And then she survived everything else. But on August the 5th, 1934, it's probably a cold August the 5th. And she probably said, oh, Harvey, you big hunk of a man that defeated them stinking Germans, are you gonna come over here and kiss me on my rosy red lips? Or they fall off? And he probably said, you ain't gonna ask me twice? I bet you that's what he said. I'm gonna ask him one day. But one thing led to another, and they made long, passionate love on August the 5th, 1934. And then 9 months later, exactly, my granny was born. And it was two of them. She had another granny inside of her named Mary. Well, she wasn't a granny yet, but she would be one day, for sure. Hey, Teresa. Both of them have one of her granddaughters. Anyway, so my granny was born. Everybody had big on lives. It was great. But 1978, which is a part I forgot, but just remembered, Granny was coming back from Florida with baby John, who needs to call me. But they were coming up. They were coming up, and they were coming up to live in West Virginia after a long life in Florida. And Granny was all black and blue from being old Grandpa Cliff for the last time. And you know who was the leader of that family at that time? Side note, Harvey died in 1976. Great Granny Alice was. She sure was. She taught her, my granny, everything there was to know about being strong and being a great leader. She sure did. So then Granny became the leader. But let's flash forward to 1987. It's July 1987. And I've said everything crazy in my life seems to always happen in July. Like, that's when things are just at their peak level of craziness. So, well, I was on my way. I was probably on my way for my first Country Stars first tour. And I was crossing the state line for probably the first time. And, you know, we never really think, my dad, Simply Tommy, we never think of him as, like, being an ice skater. But let me tell you what, I'm pretty sure he did. Simply Tommy and Simply Rita ain't never told me they never did ice skate on Tug Fork River in McDowell County around Bradshaw. So we just got to assume that they probably did before this happened. Ice skate all the way up Fantasy Gap Mountain on every single curve as fast as he could. Probably in a Chevrolet Chevette, because we never got that Chevrolet Astro van till later. Hold my mama's hand, with me in the back seat, looking pretty much, speeding like a demon, but looking pretty much like I am now, angelic. And then all of a sudden, we were like passing the Starship Enterprise on 77. We were just flying up there. It didn't make no sense. It didn't make no sense to me at the time. It sure didn't, but it makes sense to me now, because you know what? My mama's granny was dying. But we were terrorized, but we were flying up there with the power of love. And there was a woman that sang that song before Celine Dion did. So probably we just have to assume that my parents had it on and helped keeping them cops away, everything, so that he could speed and take it. We made it up there. We did. We made it up there, but Great Granny had already passed. But I put a smile on my granny's face when I got up there. So Granny was sad, but then she was happy because I was there. I was number 8. In Granny's long line of grandchildren, I ain't number 1. I'm forever number 8. So I'm just dealing with it just fine. Anyway, so Great Granny passed, but I was on my way up there. It was just hours, probably not even that, as she passed. And then all of a sudden, the rest of the story, flash forward to this homeless shelter, and it's just God was just telling me I got to get this story out. So I was over here at this homeless shelter. Y'all remember me in that red shirt and just having a big old meltdown because I went to a job site and got robbed, and then the homeless shelter thought I wasn't coming back, so they took my medication and everything else and they just throw it away, and I had a meltdown. And so I was in the hospital after Starbucks. I went to the hospital again, a real one, and I was just in there. I was crying. I was feeling sad. I was so alone. I was like, I'm in a hospital again. I'm going to be homeless forever. Nobody loves me. And I went to sleep. And that's when, in 2023, oh God, it was one of the buses bringing more homeless people to the homeless shelter, like it did me yesterday. But anyway, so Great Granny Alice came to me in a dream. And I don't know if you've ever had a visit with an angel, but here's how it went with me and Great Granny Alice. I knew who she was. So when I saw her, I was just like, is that you, Great Granny Alice? And she was like, yes. And then she said to me, pretty much what Celine Dion said in that song, Power of Love. She said, even though it seems there are times when I'm far away, never wonder where I am, because I am always by your side. That is pretty much what Great Granny Alice said to me. And I felt it strange. I was like, well, where's Granny at? And she was like, well, she's in heaven. She's like, I just came to see you because somebody had to, and it was going to be me. So when you're ever feeling lonely, just remember, you probably got a great granny. Her name might not be Alice, but mine was. So that's the story, and I was sticking to it.
next level visual. I got that